Well, she served a decade with the California legislature before turning her focus to the County of Los Angeles. I'm delighted to be joined today by the supervisor for the 2nd District, Supervisor Holly Mitchell. So nice to have you here.
It's wonderful to be with you again. I can't believe it's been so long, so thanks for having me back.
It has. And you're in your 2nd term now, so fabulous.
Yes.
All right, we're just going to get straight to it because there are so many things that I want to talk to you about. But I know, obviously, on top of mind for absolutely everyone in the city and county of Los Angeles is, of course, homelessness. And you've been really working diligently to get a lot of RV encampments moved. So where are you in that process and how are things going?
So the RV encampments has been a fascinating, really kind of learning experience and process. They are focused really in unincorporated areas of LA County. And when we did an assessment, there are like 7,000 countywide, 2,000 of them are in the 2nd District. And so it really has been top of mind of my constituents, small businesses in the 2nd District, and of course my staff and I. We came up with the motion for the RV encampment removal, which is really kind of a different process than people living on the streets in tents. Pilot program, our goal, we set a goal that we've already exceeded, but to think about the public resources, the number of county departments that are involved, the state agencies that are involved, Department of Motor Vehicles, if they are on the border of a city and unincorporated, the municipal services that are involved. It has really been an incredible feat to watch come together. But I'm very proud because our RV encampment removal motion really led to Pathway Homes and is an integral part of Pathway Homes, which is the county's housing program. Really proud that in relative short order, since we launched it just a year ago, we've removed 200 unsafe recreational vehicles. We've moved 400 individuals into interim housing and about a quarter of that number now into permanent housing. Working collaboratively with community-based organizations, intensive outreach leading up to moving day. But I think that we have found the right process to successfully help people transition out of RVs into first temporary and then permanent supportive housing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is that, it's a long process in the fact that, there is that pathway to permanence. Mm-hmm. But are you worried about more and more and more encampments cropping, up in the while you're working on the ones that you're aware of?
Well, we've done a couple things in this motion. A good number of these RVs have been dismantled.
Oh, okay.
So our goal was to take them out of this kind of a loop feeder system where they go to auction, people we call landlords bid on them, buy them, and then drop them in the street. What we found is sometimes you see the RVs on fire, they've been burned out, and people assume that those were the unhoused people setting them on fire. What we have found is that's a strategy used by the landlords against people who haven't paid rent.
Seriously?
Tragically, so many people who live in these RVs, a good number, don't own them. It's a low rent, if you will, option. And so they're really being preyed upon by these landlords who are renting to them substandard housing.
I had no idea.
And so a part of our motion is to get them out of circulation, so I'm very proud of that. We're also working collaboratively with the communities where we've done RV encampment removals to come up with ways in which that stretch of property can change. Sometimes it's painting the curb red, sometimes it's not because it's in front of businesses. So we've talked about working with community to identify beautification strategies, whatever works per community to try to keep that block from having RVs come back. The RVs that are owned by the residents that may need a new carburetor or their tags brought up to speed, a part of this program is also helping them get their RV up to code, if you will, and continuing to look for safe parking options so people can actually use it, if it's habitable, as a place to reside. The years I represented the Downtown Women's Center when I was in the state legislature, hearing from women about living on the streets in tents, that how for many of them it felt more safe than in shelters. Mm-hmm. and how they built community, and people felt safe and protected by the people around them in their tent community. And so I think what I've learned from many who've been living in RVs is they felt that same sense of community and safety. And so, we're trying to honor and respect that as we find placements to offer them.
Obviously, affordable housing is imperative in all ways, but there's also the issue of rental caps that has been very prominent in terms of, focus. How is that being balanced with the, the rights of the property owners? They might be, that might be their only property and that is their source of income. So how are you working in that very tough, nuanced scenario?
I appreciate you acknowledging that it is a tough, nuanced scenario, because from my perspective, in the district I have the privilege of representing, mom and pop property owners are really the bread and butter of our affordable housing infrastructure. Through COVID, to hear property owners say, I know my tenants, we work collaboratively. If I can keep them housed by, not going up in the rent and for tenants to say there's some flexibility when it's a mom and pop that I can negotiate, I don't have it all, can I give you a portion, as opposed to corporations that are kind of on autopilot, and the 3-day pay or quit notice is really on autopilot and it just appears on your door. And tenants who are like, I don't even really know who to call or contact to have a conversation. So the mom and pops are an essential element in preserving our current affordable housing stock. And so you're right, how do we create this balance? I introduced a motion a couple of weeks ago that I think it's as good as it could be, that we struck a balance. And how do I assess that? Because everybody had something negative to say. The tenants felt that the protections weren't enough for them. The mom and pop thought it wasn't enough for them. And basically we are protecting tenants by capping potential increases, but we acknowledged mom and pops and put in increases. I think the tenants' rights people didn't want any increases. They're acknowledging, as the advocates say, the rent in LA County and the state of California is just too damn high. Hearing mom and pops, knowing how they also suffered during COVID, knowing the age of the affordable housing stock in LA County, they need new roofs. We have earthquake retrofitting. We are in a insurance existential or otherwise crisis where it's increasing by leaps and bounds. So acknowledging that. Also, I know if a mom and pop chooses to sell their property, there aren't a lot of mom and pop buyers in the market right now. So I want to protect that mom and pop owner so we don't lose that property to the corporations. So we did do rental increases. We tried to make it within a margin that we thought was fair, to protect tenants and their needs, to give mom and pops the option to raise it up to 4%. Luxury apartments, the increase was just 1% more, to really create this balance, to try to meet the needs of everybody. It's not easy in public policy making, but like I said, if we strike a balance where no one feels like they were a winner, it's probably the best policy I could bring forward to the board.
So if people want to follow all of these things that you are doing, what's the best way for them to be able to watch all of the things that you're participating in?
My county website, which is mitchell.lacounty.gov, and Holly J. Mitchell on all other social media platforms.
Well, Supervisor Mitchell, this is absolutely fascinating. Promise me that you'll come back, because when you first were here, you had just started and it was the pandemic. Lots has changed and we can't wait to really learn what other things you're doing in the future.
I appreciate it. I'd love to come back.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.